in terms of recruitment. Lots of what we do is working with partners, one of them being MPA worldwide. We've had some successful placements in the network, one of the top 25 recruiters in 2019, as well as the top firm in the EMEA region.
Hey, one second, Melanie. One second, Melanie. I think let's introduce you once again because I think I went live later than I thought I did. So hi everybody. I'm Melanie once again. And this is the fifth of our Facebook Live series, Sutras for the Future of Work. And this series I've been bringing my international partners. And today we have Melanie Johnson, an accomplished international recruiter based in UK, and she specializes in energy. And today I'm very glad to have her here. So her credentials, before I allow her to talk, she was, as I told you, we are part of MPA International. We've got over 500 partners in 61 countries. And this is an organization that's been around for over 70 years. And all of us collaborate to try and make a difference to our respective clients and candidates. So I must tell you that Melanie has been among the most accomplished of the NPA network. And I'll let her introduce herself. She was among the top 25 international recruiters in the worldwide network. And so, yes, Melanie, please tell me something about Sunrock and what you do, and perhaps why you do what you do.
Okay. Thanks so much, AK, and thanks so much for having me. So we are a small recruitment headhunting firm based in London, UK. There's a team of 3 of us. We are not traditional recruiters, so we won't pay for job ads. I actively headhunt candidates by either networking, going for conferences, events. So trying to really find top talent, and by that is really going into my network and finding them. So very different to traditional recruiters. Being part of the MPA network has helped our brand because we leverage against the big players, Hayes, Robert Half, Michael Page, where they have global divisions, and they can then use their network internationally then to find candidates. So MPA has been very successful for us, considering we can then move candidates with specific skill sets globally. What I enjoy most is the traveling. So I enjoy traveling. So whenever there's an annual conference, I'm always there. We also have an EMEA conference that I would have attended this year if it wasn't through COVID, but looking forward to attending conferences in Australia as well as Asia. And that's pretty much Sunrock recruitment.
Fine. I'll just interrupt you here. Right now we have about 8 people watching us live, and I can see some comments from a friend Diksha. Diksha is a recruiter based out of Dubai. And thank you, Diksha, for coming by. And please do comment on the Facebook. It's only then that people know about that you're around. Please feel free to ask questions. Diksha has been a very enterprising recruiter. She's a serial entrepreneur, and right now she's doing some assignments in the hospital industry there.
Okay. And I'm sure she must be very, very busy because hospitals due to COVID healthcare sector has been booming at the moment.
Absolutely. And I think hats off to the doctors and nursing staff. The healthcare has been at the front end in terms of taking things on this entire pandemic. And I think I've heard a lot of stories from my friends who are doing it at the risk to their lives. So healthcare is a great industry right now. Yeah, coming back to Melanie. Why don't you tell something about yourself? And so how long have you been in UK? And something about your background before you came to recruitment. so
So
that we
I'm
get a
originally,
better picture.
yeah, so I'm originally from South Africa.
Right.
I've been in the UK for 19 years. So although I've been here long enough, I still very much have some ties to South Africa. So that's still very much the country in my heart. I'm an ex-accountant, so I've been recruiting for the last 4 years, so I'm relatively new in recruitment, although it's a very disruptive market. And you know, when people say they've been doing recruiting for many years, it's like, okay, but it's sort of, I think recruitment needs a little bit of new blood coming in to disrupt it a little bit. So been in finance as well, so very easy for me to work on searches that are finance related because of my experience. So yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell.
Wonderful. I'm very curious. As a finance person, you could have picked up any industry. Okay, what is your passion or drive to look at energy or renewable energy?
So I think it stems from my values. So when I started the business, I changed careers, and the reason why I changed careers is because, you know, working as an accountant and going into the city, leaving your family 7:30, coming home 8, 9 o'clock, month end, year end, auditors, forecasting, it sort of really got me almost burnt out, and I needed to have a change. But that change could have been anything, right? And then I thought, okay, what is in line with my values? And my values is always helping people and, you know, trying to bring everybody up. So finance was what I know, or that's been in my blood all the years. So I knew that I had to stick with it. But certainly from the renewable energy perspective, there's 1 in 5 people in the world that are not connected, that don't have any energy. So for
Right.
me, it's, you know, the challenge is how could I make a positive change, as well as finding employees that share my the same values. And I've been blessed with 2 excellent, Harry and Mariola, and we're really trying to push the dynamics. I'm an ambassador for Women in Energy. So I think women are really underrepresented across all markets, but in specifically renewable energy, because I think getting more women on board that also have a shared value of helping others, I think it's going to be very, very powerful, and that's how change will occur.
Fantastic. Because I mean, this is a concern of most multinational companies also. I think they're conscious now, and I
Sorry,
think there's
sorry, AK?
lots of companies are now talking of diversity and inclusion. And so, do you really see a lot more acceptance of lady professionals in renewable energy? And what kind of suggestions have you been making to your clients? What you do differently?
Okay. Well, I guess for me, so we having a pitch with one of the biggest energy providers in 2 weeks' time, and you know the pitch is clearly renewable energy and women in energy. So we'll have a big task to get lots of women who are sometimes shortage in the market for women, but it's trying to find that important pool of talented women to then fulfill some of those positions. But certainly diversity and inclusion is one thing, but trying to get a gender diversity, especially in board level positions, I think many of the big companies struggle. Being part of a few networks, women only networks, has been beneficial because they work with lots of big corporations in trying to ensure that they'll fulfill their targets in terms of gender diversity. So certainly the ambassador to women has certainly played a big part on at least big companies wanting to have a conversation with us.
Fantastic. I'm very curious to know about your accomplishments in NPA because, as I told earlier, it's amazing for a 70-year-old organization with over 500 associates across the world. Your firm, Sunrock, has been the top 25 last year. So, if you can tell us something about what you've been doing and maybe share a couple of success stories for the kind of assignments which you did, it would give us all of us, including this audience here. I can imagine I can now see over about 12 people online. I think there's been Diksha is there, and I can also see Meenakshi. They mentioned that there's some echoing in the voice. I don't know, let me try and
Yeah, yeah.
Can you also hear it?
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit in terms of picking up what you're saying, AK. So yeah.
Okay, so then let me try and get another mic if that's safe too. You please. So meanwhile, you can go ahead and talk about this. How did you get to be the top 25 in the world?
So I guess for me, I'm all about networking, and if I can help somebody, I believe in good karma. So for me, if I've met somebody in the network and I know what they're doing, I could have an article that I'll then share with them. This could be useful to you. It certainly helped with my travel. So by traveling, you kind of meet people face to face. And by meeting people face to face, and you meet them every year, you start building up a very good friendship, because there's a lot of things that we do outside of conference, whether it's dinner, lunch, roundtable discussions. And then when you see somebody over and over again, you know what they do, you know what they look for. Our successes, though, is a lot of hard work. So although I do the traveling and I meet, but it's trying to get top talent, right? And top talent is hard to find because there's not a lot of people out there in the industry with all the international exposure that some of the clients are looking for. So when we headhunt, we're going to headhunt in the right industry, a competitor with the necessary skills. It certainly helped me having a finance background, because I know the terminology, I know certain keywords that I need to be entering into a search so that I'm finding the right type of candidate if their LinkedIn profile doesn't have the right type of keywords. So I think it's...
Let me interrupt you here. There's one more comment. And this is from Mohammad Rafi. He's yet another international recruiter based in Dubai. And he's part of a global business network that I'm part of, BNI. Mr. Rafi is a very interesting profile. He was over 25 years in big corporate companies and moved on the other side of the table last 5 years. So he's in Dubai, so he also is online. Wonderful to see. Now we've got over 12 people. So, friends, if you can just hear us, and I've heard some complaints about the echo. I've tried something to do with the mic. If you think it's improved, please confirm. If it's not improved, I'll try and do something else. But meanwhile, if you can comment on the Facebook, I will be able to read your comments and also tell Melanie about your queries if there are any. Yeah. So till then, Melanie, please tell me about those two assignments that you did last year, because I recollect it was news all over EMEA and the NPA call about the kind of success you did last year.
Yeah, so one of our partners in the US had a US client, was looking for a CFO, a technology company. They are public company, and they were looking for their next CFO, could have either been based out in the US or the UK. I had met the NPA partner twice before and on the monthly call, so it was...
And when was the NPA partner?
Michael Larry from Kingston White.
Okay.
So yeah, we had already built the relationship already because we had met on 2 occasions. He knew what I did. It was a very, very complex search. So the client not only wanted somebody with a technology background, but they had back offices in Ukraine. So they needed somebody to understand the laws and regulations about the government, or the complexities of the tax and government compliance, as well as the US, and in addition to the UK. They were also trying to branch out into Indian markets through their technology. So although it wasn't a must-have, but it was a very good to have. So yeah, I mean, reached out to my network. I had a few conversations with CFOs. The process was quite a 3 or 4 stage interview process.
So where is the client and where is the candidate?
So
And where is the
candidate
event
is in the
placed?
UK, candidate in the UK, partner and company is in the US.
Okay.
So yeah, lots of, there was 2 very deep sort of questions that the candidate needed to answer in detail to show a little bit about their personality, technique, solving problems. So it was a lot of a very guiding process with the candidate, but had fun along the way. So interview processes were always very, very tough, getting to know who's going to be interviewing, I did a lot of the groundwork. Okay, I've followed him or her on social media. This is what they like. This is maybe they don't really like. So, how do we steer the conversation so that we hit in all the points that are relevant with your experience, but also showing a little bit about your personality. It was quite kind of quick. So it was a IBM CFO.
Right.
So in the IBM's contracts are 1 month. So the UK, we have very long notice period. So fortunately, the candidate had a month notice, which was pretty. So we kind of tied it up in about 6 to 8 weeks when we had an offer. So a very positive experience also working with the partner, because I think lots of partners, you can gauge serious partners, and I think you only get that through experience. Like if a partner has exclusivity or if they have retained, you kind of gauge. And if they've sent it out to 6 or 7 people, then my time, you get about 25% of my time on the search. So I guess it's also gauging and, working with partners whose clients are quite serious in getting the right people.
Sure. I'll interrupt you here once again. We now have another message from Pankaj Pandey. He says this echo is still there. So I was wondering, Pankaj, can you tell me, is the echo coming from my side or Melanie's side? Because I tried adjusting the mic at my end. So I just want to know if there is anything else we need to do. So meanwhile, Melanie, if you can just let us know what yet another position that you did. I recall something about Ghana or something.
Yes.
So that's more exciting.
So yeah, Renewable Energy company in Ghana, solar. They had investors in the US. We had a partner in the UK that was looking for a finance director / country director for their client. Their client is very, very particular, so they really look at good educational backgrounds, a lot of microfinancing that they do on top of products that they then serve or sell to people in Africa. So the type of candidate that they were looking for was investment exposure, because the person would have been reporting to investors, knowledge of the energy sector. They weren't too particular whether it was solar, wind, or the subcategories of energy, but certainly somebody who has exposure in energy in particular. The candidate that I found was in France, working as a contractor for ExxonMobil, and it was just a perfect fit. I think a lot of the startup companies who are investing in Africa as impact want people, I guess, like me, to share the same values. And for him, it wasn't even too much about, what he would get as a salary, but what is then given in terms of society. So we moved him from France to Ghana. The process was slightly long because of the interview processing and interviews with the companies, not only the companies, but the investors. So it was quite a journey, but eventually we had a placement. And what was interesting about that placement is that we found him, we're in the UK, we found him in France, and we moved him to Ghana. So something to be proud of, I think.
Okay. Wonderful, Melanie. So I'm informed that the echo is from my side. I've tried to check my mic once again. But let me get along. I'll do lesser talking and I could allow you to do all the talking. So if you can let us know about the market in future. uh, I mean, you specialize in renewable energy. So, is there a we hear about a lot in the media about the carbon footprint and the concern for environment. Now, is it only lip service, or do you think really companies are uh, really concerned in doing something? And especially since you work in private equity space, if you can just give us an idea about the market in renewable energy.
So I think with renewable energy, lots of companies, lots of investors, private investors, are not waiting for governments to change policies. I think they've also realized there's a huge demand, and lots of people are taking to the streets now. So it's not even that wait for the governments to make changes to their processes. People there's a movement or an appetite in people, and it's everyday people that are wanting to make a change to reduce our carbon footprint. So you have a lot of private investors that are out there, and I think they are more interested in the technologies behind it. So, there's a Norwegian company, three Norwegian, one is an investor, one is that's the developer, and they're all about patenting, patenting their product or their technology to then sell it to the other countries when they make successes. So certainly the technology component to renewable energy technologies is something to look forward to, I guess. And with lots of private investors, I just read a few days ago that there's an element of crowdfunding as well. So it's not just that, private equity, joint venture. There's Shell, BP, Total, they're all changing their business models. So they know that.
So what is it for the demand, the jobs part, for the employees, job seekers? What do you think are the new skills which could be relevant in this new scenario when you're talking about technology and renewable energy?
Yeah, well, I think automation. So, we're going through the fourth revolution here, right? So we're talking about artificial intelligence, automation, there's 3D printing. So they are working on a 3D prototype of building a wind turbine. So, and that's going to be double the size of an average. So it's 200 meters, and it's going to produce or generate 33% more energy. So it's breaking through the dynamics of what people are doing now. So certainly there's going to be a shift in terms of how, our children and what they then take up as careers going forward. Atomic vehicles, that whole concept. There's a company in the UK that are now testing because they want to get the accuracy of autonomous vehicles so that they can start introducing it. So certainly we're having a change and shift in culture on how we behave, and COVID has also sort of made that change even faster. So I guess there's going to be a lot of interesting components to not only renewable energies, but certainly across all the industries within the world.
Okay, I do have two more comments. One from Meenakshi. She wants to. She says, "Thanks, Melanie. That was a good point about assessing the seriousness of the partner." I also have a couple of messages from Usha Menon, a relation of mine. But there's two controversial questions. One, she says my voice is fine now, and then she says there's echoing is bigger again. That's a signal for me to keep quiet. So what I would probably ask is, I recall you mentioning about technology and the impact on the job. Do you see any change in the kind of regions? Because I keep reading about Africa being the next century belongs to Africa and all that. And given the scope for development there, do you think any of your clients and investors are looking in those kind of countries also?
Yes.
Would there be jobs there?
Certainly, but I think the jobs that are in developing countries are international experts that they're looking for, because they come with the expertise and the knowledge of certain technologies that can be adaptable. But yeah, I mean, certainly, we can talk about China. China invests in Africa, and it's all about infrastructure, because they know the seriousness and the value of assets and selling off their assets. So certainly Africa is the one to look at, and I think it feeds very nice in terms of what we do for people. And with all the sort of, being very wealthy, there's a shift in wealth. And people now are beginning to think, hang on one second, you need to be sharing some of this wealth and giving to countries who are less fortunate. So definitely emerging markets, Southeast Asia, all those markets where there's huge potential, I think is going to be the way that investors are looking at stuff going forward.
Sure. I was also talking to another friend who's been in Africa for 20 years, and he's been working across the different countries. And so he too was saying that, especially post-COVID, because most of the African countries were dependent on Europe and investment from those kind of other nations. And post-COVID, there's been some kind of an isolation because of this entire pandemic. So there is a kind of a move to become more self-dependent, and they probably are going to look at more investments so that they build their own infrastructure. And so it kind of tallies with what you're kind of telling me.
Yeah. I think though in emerging countries there's going to be a lot of shift in terms of government thinking. So I think there could be more investment in developing countries, but I think, we talk about, corruption and everything else. I think when people then start rooting things in developing countries out, you'd have more of an appetite for other countries to invest.
Right. So I didn't realize we were already 25 minutes we were talking about to each other. I think, one thing, can you tell us how has COVID affected you professionally, and has it impacted the kind of assignments you did? And what have you done with your team, and how you coped up with this? And what do you see the world on the other side of COVID?
So I think, the UK was second highest, now we're third highest after US and Brazil. It was really scary, I think, for a lot of people, because if we're looking at on before we peaked, we were between 800 and 900 deaths a day. So it was really, really bleak. But then that also allowed us, so we couldn't go into the office because the office was shut. But then I went through a phase of like reflection. So one of my employees I put on furlough because we had a few things in the pipeline that just stopped completely. We were fortunate enough to have an offer in April, and I just thought, hang on one second, I'm not going to do any new business development for number one. I reached out to my clients that I know personally just to find out how they are and how their families are, but I wasn't going to still be pushing if a job is put on hold, still push through to move forward in terms, it just stopped. But that also gave me some personal reflection as well, because I think, every day there's this school run, work, come home. I think women is slightly different because they have all these other components to what they have to do. And it just made me sort of think back and say, hang on one second, priority is our health and the safety of my family. And you start really starting to think about, you put things into perspective. So it allowed me to put things into perspective. The UK slowly, so we peaked about 4 weeks ago, and now the numbers are now 200, 300 average a day. We are partially open. We came back, so we closed towards the end of March, and we came at the 1st of June. And now we're slowly now building up the momentum. We have a few interesting conversations. We're still picking up all the contracts that have been put on hold. But yeah, post
Yeah,
COVID, yeah,
one thing I've seen, noticed, Melanie, from your side also, we in NPA have been having the monthly practice calls where recruiters from across the countries have been coming regularly and having uh, comparing notes and all that. I've seen amazing amount of research that you've done, your team has done the last couple of months, and it's really refreshing that you kind of send us updates about these are the kind of investments which are happening, and you've kind of identified some Indian companies that are probably likely to hire in this part of the world, and similarly your inputs to other recruiters. I mean, so I can notice that if hitherto we were mostly hunting for assignments, I can see a change in your perspective where you are actually farming now, doing a lot of research.
yeah. I mean that too. If you have downtime, why not then research? Because then if you want to come across as an expert in your field, you've got to kind of know what you're talking about in front of clients.
Sure.
And for me, like I said, good karma. If I've been working with a Canadian partner to find new business, I've been working with a guy in Texas in the US to find new business because they have clients. They are a company who's international, who has a headquarter in the US or headquartered in Canada, but they have branches in the UK. So for me, it's not partnering. It's not also about, do you have a job for me or do you have a candidate for me? It's building that relationship and building a solid foundation in your relationship that when there is an opportunity, whether it comes from us or your partner abroad, you know that you're going straight to them to then do the business. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
In the last couple of minutes, we've got quite a few comments suddenly. I have a friend of mine, Rishabh Biani. He's an exporter and very young entrepreneur. He keeps traveling to your part of the world. Okay, so he says hello. And then Usha Menon has a comment that COVID has brought the world together. Everyone across the world could relate to each other's problem, irrespective of his or her nationality. That's very interesting.
And that's amazing, isn't it? Because it also shows that we might be different, but we have so much in common. Love for family, the love, the need to be loved. So thanks so much for that comment. I appreciate it.
Got a couple of more comments from Mr. Mohammad Rafi from Dubai. Like I told you, he was the recruiter there, and who was from the corporate side, HR head, handling multiple countries in the UAE part of side. So he has this question for you, interesting one. I face a lot of difficulties in convincing candidates who are from the West to get employed in African countries due to security issues. How do you convince them? Is this something you have come across, Melanie?
Not necessarily, because I guess it depends on the client, right? So I think your client needs to have a very good selling point to them in terms of security, because normally expats, they put them in compounds which are very safe and secure for their employees. But yeah, I think it's going back to your client and saying, okay, I've got these people that I want to approach. They a bit concerned about being in certain African countries. What do you do for your employees that I can then try on to sell on your behalf? I think though also candidates, if they have a need to, if their values are in line with your clients, they'll be more likely to say, you know what, I want to help people. And if I know that I feel safe, I'm going to go out there and help them. So I think it's also having the same, being in sync with your client. And that's when your client comes in, because your client can say, this is what we're doing in Africa. And we want people who want to be part of the movement, so to speak.
Very interesting. So these are issues which can be probably educated on both sides. I've been talking to the clients and candidates, and not necessarily going by the media hype and all that.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a lot of Western employees in particular Kenya, Nigeria, that are ex-Harvard, Stanford, Ivy League, that have done the economics in university, that are quite keen to sort of broaden their horizons.
Fantastic. One more interesting question, Mr. Rafi. Due to severe fall in crude oil prices, production of renewable energy became stagnant. Do you also feel the same?
Well, I think with renewable energy, that's just COVID, right? Post-COVID, they were
Right.
still doing very well.
Oil
I
prices
know.
have been gently down in the last year or so.
Yeah, but I think so with wind and solar. So I'll give you an
Yeah.
example in the UK. Wind and solar is the two top producing renewable energy technologies, and this is when we were in COVID. So I think there is a change. So we're looking more and more in terms of the future. So crude oil, and people have now stopped too much investment in technologies that are not clean, because they want to move on to better business models where they're going to be making an impact in the environment, as well as making profits in terms of technology. So
Yeah.
I think there will be a shift. I mean, I just read an interesting article, an engineer in the UK, from power to liquid. So he's making fuels from water and air. So, I mean, those are amazing. Imagine technologies where we don't have to go to a gas station to get gas. So I think people are pushing the boundaries, and renewable technologies would be the way, or the future, really.
Yeah, I also think that the governments are playing an important role these days. And if you look at India itself, I think I've read somewhere that we have the maximum number of solar days, sun days, 200 days, very unique across the world. And over the last few years, a lot of subsidies being given by the government to encourage more use of solar. And so now you find a lot of startups and mid-sized companies investing in things like solar panel. Okay, I mean we have an airport south of India which entirely runs on the solar energy part, Cochin Airport, and I've seen also a client of mine. They have started investing in solar panels, not just for usually the vertical ones, the horizontal one, but now even as facades for the building. So I guess as you go forward, we find more uses of solar and solar panels.
And I think it's also the technology behind that that's going to be key, because in the Norwegian companies that I mentioned earlier, I was on a webinar a few days ago. They
Right.
are working on completely changing aviation. So all renewable clean energy will be used to fuel planes. And they have this amazing technology that investors have invested in, where they capture carbon dioxide, so it's power to liquid, and then they store it at very high temperatures and release it and that actually makes the wind turbine move. So just really amazing. People are, what we thought of a laptop and internet and emails years ago, there are companies who are pushing the boundaries, that we will be, by people will start meeting their carbon emission targets because of the technologies that they are using to really shape the future of the world.
Hey, great, Melanie. Good insight. I've got another question, this time from a perspective of a job seeker. Dilip Anjaria has a question. How do you think organizations will approach hiring now and post-COVID? Do you see more organizations bringing in contractors and gig workers, even in leadership roles? So I have an interesting perspective, but I would love you answer first, and then I can probably put my comments also.
So I think organizations have to change their approach to hiring now. So if I look in the UK, we have our train system is it's almost broken, because almost every day if you need to travel into the city, you are late because trains are delayed and it's overcrowded. So what companies are doing now, and the government, due to government guidelines, they are saying only if you have to go into an office shall you travel. So I think, and because people who were in roles that could work from home were working from home, there's that culture shift almost in companies' minds. We can reduce our carbon footprint by keeping people working from home. They're happier because they have flexibility and more time with their family, and not traveling by trains that's overcrowded and always running late, so they start work stress. So I think there's going to be a whole culture shift pre-COVID in terms of how we interact even as businesses. The shaking hand component, don't really think so. If you can have a meeting on Zoom as opposed to being face to face, we've done it for all these weeks, so there's going to be a shift in the way we think moving forward.
So yeah, that's exactly what he's asking. So do you think that in fact they're hiring? Will you see more contractors and gig workers?
But I think that's got to do with Generation Z as well. So as we move and the employment, the age of our candidates change. Like my daughter, for example, she's 22. She gets very stressed if she has to travel for too long. Oh no, that's too long. And she doesn't want one career, she wants a few careers. So that whole shift, even people at a certain age, will force companies to change their business models. So yes, more contractors, because people will prefer to contract than have full-time employment. But yeah, I think it's COVID has forced us to change the way we think, especially big corporates, all the way to the very small business owners.
Yeah, I too agree with you there. And like you mentioned about the behavioral change after COVID. Frankly, now people are more aware that we can sit at home now and continue to work and work within suffer. So I have a feeling in future people will start, at least the star performers will start demanding that they would need to work from home at least a few days, if not for longer days. So there's going to be definitely hybrid hiring, people working from home or people working from remote. And I was also talking to a few clients. Now they also got used to people working remotely. So some of the American clients are talking about the change from offshoring to nearshoring, because one of the biggest complaints that most hiring managers have, if their employees are in different time zones and then they have to sit up late evenings, early mornings, they are more willing to now look at people who are the similar time zones. So I have a feeling we'll have a lot of American jobs which will probably go to places like Colombia or Mexico, which are almost similar time zones. But in terms of cost arbitrage, makes a lot of difference for companies. Similarly, I've seen a lot of Californian startup companies who used to fight for talent to be attracted to the Silicon Valley, and they had to pay them through the nose, the $200,000 after that. But now, post-COVID, I think they are willing to look candidates even wherever they place that. So I think the opportunities are now going to be anytime, anywhere. And so if in the past people went to jobs, I have a feeling now in future, jobs will go to people. So, and in any case, like you earlier alluded to it, in terms of the changing skills, the demand and supply is definitely skewed. The people who are good will get a lot more jobs, and they'll have the choice to work with a client or not work, and what conditions, whether they like to work remotely or working from home. And so yes, that's a lot of big changes in terms of contracting roles and big workers.
I think
and as far as leadership goes, Beg your pardon?
No, I think technology roles as well, where you can work wherever you are in the world, have become more and more popular because that's where the shortage in terms of demand is, right? So a contractor, for example, if they prefer to contract because they'll always have work and have the flexibility of then having some time with their family, taking 3 months off. I had an ex-colleague when I worked in the finance world, and he was technology and he did DevOps. But what he didn't want to do is be tied down to one company. So he'd work for 4 months, he'd take 2 months off, he'd either go back to the company or have another one on his limited company. So I guess it also depends on the type of industry in terms of demand
Sure.
and supply, like you said. But certainly a shift in thinking pattern post-COVID is what will happen.
Right. I'll also address the question which Philip mentioned. Leadership role. Yes. Uh, there will be a shift in terms of leadership roles also. But this has been coming even before COVID. If you were to look at the average tenure of leaders 15, 20 years back, people used to be at the head for almost 20 years. But now you find companies having leaders only for 4, 5 years. And with more mergers and acquisitions happening, and the stakeholders becoming more impatient, we have a lot of investors closely monitoring company performances and probably quarter-to-quarter results. And I think leaders also are under severe pressure, and so the tenure is definitely going to come down. And so I don't think it's a matter of level. Gig and contract is here to stay. And like you earlier alluded, it's about generation change. People are now approaching work not purely as a life kind of a thing. They're also looking for some purpose. So
Yeah.
I think it's, despite the COVID, there is going to be a shift in the expectation of the jobs both sides. Hey, you know what, Melanie? It's been 45 minutes since we've spoken. Okay, I think we should kind of start wrapping it up.
Okay.
So, I mean, I just we can go on and on. Are there any advice for you from you for job seekers in the future?
Well, I guess it depends on your industry. So we've spoken about technology, automation, artificial intelligence, 3D printing. So I guess if you have kids or if you're really young in terms of the job market, choose your profession going forward wisely. If you are looking in terms of changing your career, I think having a deep dive and a soul search of what you're looking for, what you want to do. I think there's all sort of components to whether you work part-time, if you have a family, whether you retire, whether you're not. But I mean, for me, is try to get a very good, work on your LinkedIn, which is very useful because headhunters find you on LinkedIn. Make sure you have all the keywords that are related so that when recruiters, headhunters, companies do a search, they find you. So it's all those sort of key components in terms of looking for new opportunities. There's a feature on LinkedIn when you open for new opportunities, you don't have to tell everyone. It's a discrete feature that you can find so that people who have LinkedIn Professional can then find you to make it a bit easier. Networking, I always say to especially the executives that I speak to, like, why would you want to come to me to help you find your new opportunity when you've been an executive for 30, 40 years? So I always try to tell them, reach out to your network because, you'll have opportunities through your network and through all the friendships that you would have acquired over the years. I mean, we've got a bulk of information in terms of blog postings that we do online on our website. So when it comes to CV, covering letters, mental health in the workplace. So yeah, I mean, there's loads of advice, I guess, that lots of people can give you in terms of opportunities. But
So
I
if
guess
somebody's watching and they would like to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you, Melanie?
Well, they can email me. I guess
Yeah.
you can give them my email address, AK. But I
Right.
mean, we're on all the social media platforms. So we're on
Sure.
LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. So yeah, I mean, just send me a personal message. So some of my team look after my social media accounts, so I'd most probably not respond straight away, but certainly reach out to me and we can see how we can try and assist, or at least give you some advice in terms of what your plan is.
Fantastic. I think, yeah, it's 10 more minutes left for the hour, so I think we'll wrap up. I'll just ask you one last question, because the whole theme of this series is Sutras for the future of work. I recall you mentioning that the candidate is the king in future. So, what do you mean by the candidate is the king?
So I think recruitment over the years has shifted, where candidates used to be the ones that just had to accept service from recruiters have changed, right? So if you are looking for somebody that is a talent, that's very, very talented, there's a shortage of skills, they don't want to talk to recruiters, right? Because they can find through their own network, find something. The idea that because the client pays you, you've got to be steering towards what the client wants. So I play a fair game. So for me, yes, I will make from my past experience known to the client. No, salary is too low. This is the market rate. You're looking for somebody, this is what you have in terms of premium on top of the market rate because of X, Y, and Z. Similarly to the candidate. So if I feel that the candidate here is not playing a fair game in terms of the process, and I will then call them out. But at the same time, we are dealing with top talented people that can go somewhere else, that can use their own network. So we need to shift our thinking patterns when it comes to candidates. I always try to, if I can't help a candidate, I would say, look, I can't help you. It's either out of my niche, we don't have anything. I'll try and get one of our partners to see whether it's in your niche, whether you can. But I don't ever close doors on people who I can help, maybe not now, but going together in future. And the placement that we made from France to Ghana was a referral from one of a candidate who I didn't place. So the whole idea and concept and structure around candidates now is vital, I think, for recruiters to survive.
Fantastic. Yeah, this is something which we are fortunate to be a part of NPA, the Worldwide Recruiter Network. We have over 550 specialist recruiters across different countries. And so, even if we don't work that niche or that geography, I'm sure we can find somebody else who has the competencies and the sensitivity to handle such people. Yeah, this is something I keep telling most clients also, that as consumers today, we are pampered by all our consumerism. You buy a Swiggy, if you take a Ola or a Amazon, Uber or Amazon, we are constantly reminded of the service, how soon we are being treated to a service. Whereas often the complaint you receive from all job seekers is that whenever they apply for a job, okay, it's a dark hole, although they don't get response. But I'm very, very happy with what you said, that the candidate is going to be the king, and then we need to be more sensitive.
I think, and in addition, AK, going back to the question from one of the guys who spoke about how can you persuade candidates to work with the security issues. Big corporations, what they're doing now is they're getting people in front, selling their organizations. Big Four, they have a whole deck of what they do with their staff and how they look after their staff, because companies have realized that if you want to get good people to work for you, you have got to sell what you've got to offer. So going back to the candidate is king, you know, there are certain big performing companies who have to entice people to want to work for them. So yeah, this changes.
Right. So on that note, we'll try and wrap up, Melanie. But just before you go off, I want to acknowledge another BNI partner, Leah Litani. She has a comment based on the conversation you had. He says highly motivating. That means a lot. Thanks a lot, Leah.
Thank you very much.
Right. So thanks a lot. It's been over 55 minutes. I wouldn't want to keep you waiting anymore. Thank you once again, Melanie. I look forward to working closely with you. I know there are a lot of investments coming this part of the world, and I'm sure some of your clients will be looking at emerging markets. And so, thanks a lot. We'll stay in touch.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Right. And Philip Anjaria says, thank you, Melanie, for those wonderful insights. Thank you, Dilip, for coming by and staying back. So, friends, I'm just logging off right now. Thank you, Ushad. Thank you, Rafi. Very kind of you to stay right through. Despite the echo, I tried not to talk much. I'll try and attend to it before the next meeting. So, thank you for now. We'll stay connected. If you have any other queries, please feel free to reach out.